Good afternoon. I'm not hearing any response, you see. Perfect. Thank you so much. It's difficult session immediately after lunch, but we will try to make it more exciting with the topic that we have in hand. And I have the best of the panel here. Very difficult to introduce each one of them in such a short words. But I'll start with Captain Sanjay. Has been a good friend, and I don't think anyone here would be that won't know him. So, Captain Sharma, I'm just reading out a little bit about you. 28 years of experience in global corporate security, and definitely a visionary thought leader. And his work presently as global security head at WIPRO, and he has served leadership positions at Nestle, at IBM, at Citigroup, at American Express that I know. And more than that, I think Captain Sharma has really worked very hard and one of the very, very rare, leader who brings with him an expertise on cybersecurity, information security. He's a law graduate, and he has done his postgraduate in industrial relation and personal management. So I'm really scared of him. He doesn't send his CV to my company. So I have Paul with me. Everyone knows Paul. Paul is currently Senior Regional Vice President for South Asia, Southeast Asia for ASIS. He's also a gallantry awardee and heads now as head safety and security for WTW for Australasia, India, and CEMEA, Central Europe, Middle East and Africa, so to say. I have with me Colonel Trikha. Colonel Trikha and I have worked very closely in my G4S days. Colonel Trikha is definitely, he's worked in many, many different industries. He's a recipient of Lifetime Achievement Award in 2014 from International Association of Educators for World Peace. He's a founder member of OSAC India chapter. Not many people know, or maybe it's better to, of course, Casey, you're also there. Of course, you've done that. And currently, he's the secretary of Martyr's Flight Lieutenant Maheesh Trikha Foundation. And of course, we see him in almost every, these kinds of, conferences. And I'm sure we'll learn more from you through the session. Umeash, he has his own, marketing, communication, K-communication. He heads that, and he has 15 plus rich experience. He's worked with companies like G4S, SIS, to name a few, strategizing their corporate communication, especially in security and facility management industry. And welcome all the panelists here. And our topic today is it's very diverse, very huge. I'm not sure why we can do it justice in 40 minutes, and 5 minutes is already gone. But I intend to talk not too much on the major regulatory issues of FDI but what roadblocks are currently in the industry and what, as an industry, apart from all the challenges that we have, we still can overcome within our own limits. So I'll start with Captain you. Yeah, what in your views are most important challenges today faced by a CSO to ensure a secured environment?
Thank you, Rupal, for that interesting introduction and a very interesting follow-up question. It's a very, very wide question because challenges of a CSO will differ industry to industry. In terms of the size of the industry, in terms of the nature of the business, in terms of the geography in which the business is operating, it will be highly variable. But yes, there will be a lot of common ground in terms of common challenges which security leadership positions face. And I will touch on some of those in terms of little experience that I have in dealing with those issues. So the first problem, and a very complex one, is getting the right security appreciation at the top. So how are you able to communicate security to leadership and to the board? And how much do they understand and appreciate security? That is clearly one very, very important and complex area of work for CSOs. And second, of course, is breaking perceptions. There is a lot of carried perception because it's a multi-stakeholder leadership team represented at business level or even at a board level. And everybody carries their own perceptions. Even in your peer network or downline in your function, there will be a lot of variance in perceptions. So how much you are able to break that perception to bring them close to reality is again a very, very complex challenge before CSOs. And here, of course, communication is the key. How are you able to communicate? What do you bring on table? How do you show them value of security function so that they understand the narrative that you bring on high table? The third is, of course, the understanding of the risk, the changing nature of risk. So risk is changing, especially in a global company. We operate in more than 60 countries. The global geopolitics changes the narrative in no time. So how adept you are in understanding nuances of the geopolitical risks and its application to your function. Also, appreciate how the risk is changing for the physical security function. So those days are over when it was only physical risk. There is a risk convergence, more than function convergence, there is a risk convergence. So the risk is now cyber physical. Risk is not physical or risk is not cyber. Risk is now cyber physical. And how you are able to relate your area of work and contribute in management and mitigation of that risk for your business is another complex task before you as a CSO. So you should be able to bring that value at a crisis committee level, at a risk management level, as a function leadership SME, to help the organization navigate those risks in terms of success of the organization. The other one, of course, is infusion of technology. That's another big challenge before CSOs, because a lot of people come from physical security domain. Technology on security is a relatively new nuance for the function. And it is very slow in adaptation across the industry. There are some companies where it may be very advanced. So if I give you an example from my company, we use very high degree of artificial intelligence in physical security domain to make decisions. We use very high degree of data analytics. We consume so much of data. And we use a very high degree of system integration. But you have to keep pace with the changing nature of technology. It's like smartphones. You buy one today, tomorrow it's obsolete. So same way for security technology, what you want to make out of that in terms of outcomes of that tech and convince the business that this is the right technology, it will have some life, and make some business decisions out of that. So that's another one. And the most important, I'll say a little pain for CSOs as a challenge is hunting the right people and then retaining them. So that's a scarcity, that you don't get right quality people, and then once you get them, to retain them. So it's a big challenge, ongoing challenge, and it cuts across all levels, in your peer networks, downline in your managers, or even in the third party, outsourcing of work where the guard services function or maintenance service function or system integration activities or technology maintenance is carried out. It cuts across all of them. So people quit for little gain, and then you end up, training, retraining, upskilling. It's an ongoing, continuous challenge. The other one is that there is no minimum standard of security in the industry. That is the very tragic side, that there is no regulation that demands minimum security standard. For example, I'll give you an example. Like a fire NOC. If you set up a facility, you need a fire NOC, you have to comply with 10 different minimum requirements in terms of space where the fire tender can move out, setup of fire extinguishers, hydrant system, pumps, all of that. It's all regulated. But in security, there is no regulation. There is no regulation in security. So there is a lack of regulation that defines minimum standard of security. So my suggestion is that industry should come forward and look at transforming this regulation side so that there is a minimum standard of security that becomes the benchmark, and there should be a security NOC issue, similar to fire NOC, that now the facility is good to occupy and it's being protected properly. So those are some of those which come to my thought as a immediate this thing.
I think perfect. Very, very, very valid thoughts in terms of perception, in terms of certification that yes, this building is completely, secured from a people, property, information, and everything point of view. Very valid. Thank you so much. Picking on from the perception perspective, Umesh. Next question I'll ask you. Security industry in India is quite media shy. You don't see security companies, very vibrant in media. Why is it so? Because you've worked with the top guys. If you've done on the brand management, corp communication, this is something we see across in the industry. Why is it so? And how, in your view, the brand management of security industry need to position ourselves in India?
Yeah, thank you for a very relevant question here, and thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak at this podium. So there is basic glorification missing of the security agencies. It comes from the fact that they themselves do not have a realization of how much bigger impact they are doing in the society. And I'll split this answer into two parts. One is an organized sector, wherein we have very few big size agencies who have a authority, who have a resources to go to media and speak with them. And there is an unorganized sector. Now, unorganized sector, they do not want to come, because they're doing it, everything they're doing it, doing it wrongly. So they do not want to come into limelight. Coming to the organized sector, unfortunately, they get a very less platforms, to speak up. Now, whenever they get a platform, maybe just before the budget, just to give a two quote in the media and all, they struggle with the basic things like GST slab, like Pasara licensing, like wage structure. So they obviously speak about that. They do not get like for example, Businessworld doing this event. How many such event for security happens in a year? And I'm glad that Businessworld has been doing it. So there is no voice or there is no platform to towards this. That's one part. Secondly, coming to the guard level or a very basic employee of a security company, they do not looked upon their career as an aspirational career. Like nobody tomorrow comes out of graduation and say that I want to become a security guard. That's the last option that they have. So there is again no glorification of the career path they want to have, because they know that they are today guard. In 3-4 years they will become supervisor, and then what? So this brand management start at that internal communication level where they should be feel appreciated, recognized. They should have a clear-cut career path that can be communicated with them via internal communications. There are a lot of programs that we run at our clients' end, wherein a supervisor can take up a refresher course and become an operational manager. So he goes from a direct staff to an indirect staff. And that gets glorified in the social media, that gets glorified into media stories. Unfortunately, we see media stories only when there are terror attack or only when there is an issue that has happened, in the media. And again, after 6 months, it just drowns down. So if we manage the communication part and the brand management part from the grassroots level, I think this issue will be resolved.
Thank you. So just picking up from where you left, especially on the people side at the grassroots level, Colonel Trikha, my question to you will be that from supply side, do we see more and more people joining this industry by first choice, or it remains predominantly for, excuse my expression, for the ex-armed forces?
Thank you, Rupal. This question which is being asked from me is, of course, because since I'm having the foundation which was formed by us after having lost my son, who was flying in the Siachen Glacier in an Indian Air Force Cheetah helicopter. He became Martyr in 2002. And after that we formed this foundation, and somehow this foundation was empaneled with the Ministry of Defense, Director General Resettlement. We conducted the courses for JCOs and other ranks on security, safety, and other subjects. Whatever were given to us, we conducted from the year 2011, 12, 12, 13, 13, 14, 15, 16, 16, 17. What you say is right, because the armed forces have the first preference, but my experience has been, after running the courses, I found that these JCOs and other ranks who are retiring, they want 6 months time to get themselves relaxed, because after having spent so many years in the army, they want to relax. Whatever money they have got, they want to spend. And when they are short of money, then they look for job. So that was my experience with the Ministry of Defense. Then our foundation was empaneled by Ministry of Minority Affairs for the year 2014-15 and 15-16. There also we conducted the security courses for the unemployed youth of minority communities residing in the states of West Bengal, Tamil Nadu, Delhi and Rajasthan. After giving training for 2 months, because Pasara says, of course, 26 days, but our module was that we'll give training for 2 months because the unemployed youth or minority communities were not that educated. So we wanted to give them first something input on the soft skill, mannerism, and then give them the topics related to security. So after giving 2 months of training, the security providers, industrialists came to our centers. They wanted to take them. They did take them. But the pity is that after having taken them, these people who are from the minority communities, they did not stay long with them in the job. But they were very keen to join the security industry after getting proper training.
Thank you, Colonel Trikha. Just moving on from that, Paul, a question for you is that in this VUCA world, right, how can a security professional or a security company can be more a solution-centric provider? And what are those two or maybe top three, in your view, are the roadblocks that is preventing security in going to the next level?
Thank you. So I would like to thank OSPAS for having me as one of the panel members here. And so something on the lighter side. So if any of y'all have seen or run the middle distance or the long distance, so there's a certain way people run and a certain grouping happens. And what happens is that at times when people run a team, certain people get boxed inside. So they cannot run the natural race. So I'm feeling that now. First there was lunch and now I'm the last of it. But it's okay, I shall continue. Okay, so the couple of problems which I would like to bring out is, so this acronym all of us have heard, SaaS. What is that? Yeah, no. What's the full form? Yeah. So that's what. So we as security professionals are using software as a service. We have to start thinking of security as a service. If you don't think that, then we're going to be left out. We're going to be left out on the thing. And one of the things which a lot of us security professionals, I mean, some of us security professionals, I don't want to get lynched, that's why I made the change, is that we are in the fire extinguisher syndrome. What is the fire extinguisher syndrome? Invented by me, is that when there is no use, you are hanging over there. And when there is use, you just use to douse the fire and you again put up back over there. So that's the problem we should not be. We should not become like a fire extinguisher. We should continue to provide, value-added services. So in fact, outside I was speaking to one of my colleagues and that guy said one thing, that when you go to a board meeting, what do they discuss? They discuss numbers. And what do we discuss in a security meeting? We don't discuss numbers. So the day we start making that, the moment we start making the change, life will start changing. And another thing which happens is, what are the value add services that we're giving? Like for example, so people keep saying a lot of security security organizations, I stand corrected, security departments in organizations had a high during the COVID time because they did everything. So people keep patting themselves on the back, which is great, which was good at that point of time. But are you still relevant now? Or did you experience that fire extinguisher syndrome? That is something you got to do. So one thing which I've always noticed is that our SOPs, our procedures, policies are at times, which I understand is has been created not very forward looking. So if that tweak is not done, we'll keep doing this catch up stuff. So that is something that we must look forward to. These are some thoughts that I had, and obviously training and obviously getting the right person skill set. So this being a So again, we go back to the question that is security an art or a science? So again, that's a question. So the technocrats want to make it a science, and while people like us, we would like to make it art. So it's a constant battle. Thank you.
Thanks so much. And I think very well said by all of you. The last question before we wrap up this session. Post COVID or during the COVID, as you rightly said, Paul, that security was on forefront. And we keep hearing in various forums, whether it is CSO, CISO, whether Chief Security Officer needs to be now, information technology needs to report to them, or security should report to them. This is a big ambiguity surrounding this discussion is going at every forum. Most of the companies also in their restructuring are talking about this matter. So, Sanjay, to you especially, and Paul, to you especially, I think before we wrap up, this question is important because we've seen today security professionals are getting involved if there are digital harassment of our employees. Notice period, you have to screen, make sure that, the information leakages are not there. Your perimeter security is not within the boundaries today, because if you have a hybrid model of working, your perimeter security is now extending to the home of your employees. Now, kindly, how do you see, this is definitely a big challenge for the industry. How do you see that this is either it is a complementary role or a collaborative role? How security professionals in the organization or security companies need to, because you got all our big professionals here, how we need to react to this? Do we embrace this change, lead this change, collaborate this change? That's the last question I have. After that, Paul, I would love to have.
Thank you, Rupal, for that very common anxiety in the industry and a very commonly discussed subject. Some time back, I wrote a blog and I titled it, CSO is the future rock star of the board. Right? And to do that, he must meet certain QR, right? He must be technologically savvy if he wants to be the rock star of the board. And my view is that, as the discussion progresses, CISO and CSO will always coexist in tandem, because the job roles for those two functions are different. To have a debate that there should be convergence, whether CISO will take over CSO role and CSO will take over CISO roles, is a futile debate. They are a function of coexistence and collaboration. So they must coexist because the job roles are differently cut out. Now, this convergence may still take place at a leadership level, where you don't need a SME expert, you need more leadership expertise. And to do that and see that position in your organization, one, those birds are rare, which can actually converge. And in my view, physical security professionals, sorry for cutting it across to the IT domain, but my view is that if a CSO is well resilient and has good knowledge on cyber and understanding cyber security risks and add business value, also he must deeply understand business more than cyber and physical. So if he brings these three types of convergence, he is in the right position to lead a converged entity, right? And same applies to CISO. So if CISO invests time in understanding physical security space and business, that position can be taken by them also. But ultimately, it is a question of leadership rather than a question of functional expertise. So we have to prepare ourselves. My advice is that traditionally, because people are drawn from military ranks and qualification which are very centric to physical security domain, most people do that. They must expand their knowledge into the cyber side. Unless you know cyber and business both, then no one is going to put that in your plate as a natural succession that because you hold a title called CSO, you should also lead CISO, and vice versa. So that's my view on this very complex debate that goes on in forums like this.
Sorry. So one of the things that I was talking, so I classify myself as a salesman. I am a salesman of security, because until and unless you sell security, people will not buy security. So we have got to be salesmen. So that's one part. Another thing which I heard is that we have got to be we got to be CEOs of our space. If you're not CEOs of our space, then okay, you also come along types will become that. So this is something that has to be done. And so when I look at today's agenda, it gives me a lot of pleasure and happiness to say that people are looking ahead. I'll just read out stuff which has been written over here. Professionalism and sustainable growth of security industry post-pandemic. Very relevant. Cybersecurity challenge in the contemporary era. Training and development. So we are going in the right direction. Things are happening in the right direction. But it also happens that we have got to constantly upgrade ourselves. So a lot of times we get into this trap or this comfort zone of I'm very happy with this common stuff of guns, guards, and gates, but we are not going ahead. So until unless we start thinking about risk, we don't start using word risks instead of only security, we'll keep getting trapped over here. And I always say that we as professionals, it's very important that we encourage the next generation to also come here. And we have got to ensure that we provide a helping hand to the next generation to come. We don't want this, term which was after me, the deluge. We don't want the flood. We don't want things to end after you. So what are we doing that? So this is something that has to be done. It should be a lot of times we like to be the Superman. They're not requiring to be for you to be Superman. Your team combined should be a Superman or a Superwoman or whatever you want to call it.
I just want to add one more point there, Rupal, sorry for putting in here. So it's also about the executive presence that CSO will have in leadership. If you have the right executive presence, you will be heard well. And for that to happen, you should breathe business in and breathe out. So if you understand nuances of the business for which you're working, and people will hear you better, they will invest better in you, and they will see you as a natural progressing leader in this domain. So it's very, very important to have the executive presence.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, all of you. And I think from this, panel discussion, we didn't want it to touch upon attrition, FDI regulations, PASARA licenses, but we wanted to touch base those security challenges which are prevalent, present, but which can be overcome. And as you rightly said, Paul, we need to be, the security CSOs need to see themselves as the CEOs, as a P&L head, as someone who controls, commands, and as you rightly said, a board seat. And more these, nuances are addressed. I think more people from the supply side we will see, and more from the brand management we will see the companies shaping up and be a first choice for overall community, where we see about the investors. Rightly said that we coexist. We've seen in our own organization or very other organization, security professionals are now getting involved in POSH, all the investigations, there are a lot of forensic audit that's happening within the companies, or we get the mandates for forensic audit. And these forensic audits are not financial audits, but these forensic audits are more related to, investigations related. Today the police machinery, so to say, I'm not, it's my personal opinion, and rightly so, because we are giving these services. Where writing FIR is so difficult, you need certified experts to actually write FIRs for the digital crimes. It's very difficult to find these kinds of resources. And these are the challenges, these are the short supply of people where, as security professionals, we can see our next generation, next job landing page, where security dimensions are very differently seen. So the risk strategies are different now. They are remodeling themselves. And I think as industry, we are maturing and gearing ourselves up for these challenges, and we will overcome, right? But thank you so much. Thank you, every one of you. Colonel Trikha, thank you, Sanjay. Thank you, Paul. Umeash, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, lovely audience. Thank you so much.